Okay. Probably. Okay, perfect. Yes, so we're talking about career opportunities in Stockholm, in Sweden. Since we are a global RQI, I learned that one has to put things in context. So Europe starts to be divided a little bit into smaller units. So that's where we'll focus. And zooming even more, physics in Stockholm, I guess to my knowledge, happens mostly by large here at Albano. So in particular, in the building where we are meeting here today, and one connected to it via a bridge. So they form here this star you can see marked as Albano. So this is part of the university campus. So we are at N in NORDITA, and F is the physicum. Actually, it's more than physicum. So this is just to give a little bit of background, because part of the motivation, I guess, for these development talks is that people that are not currently at the place can understand a little bit how this place works. So there will be just this very brief section about how things are here organized, which I think is also somewhat different and interesting. There is the center called the Albanova, and this is a center for physics, astronomy, and biotechnology. And it's a joint initiative of Stockholm University and the Rolla Institute of Technology, KTH. So that's quite unusual from my prior perspective. You would have university and technical university completely separate, and the closer they are, the bigger the competition between them and the bigger the barriers to do things jointly. So this is, it's really interesting that there is a shared space and shared events or shared institutes. So the building houses the Department of Physics, so that's where I'm based. Various departments also from KTH, Department of Astronomy from the university. Also NORDITA is part of this, so the institute that has been mentioned already earlier, and it's also a joint venture between the two. And Oskar Klein Center, so this is a center for cosmology and astroparticle physics, also part of this joint projects. So I'll go right away to some overview of PhD studies or opportunities. Again, focusing mostly on things through the lens of the university and NORDITA. So in general, PhD, and I think this is common for all Sweden, is 4 years. And one is typically employed. This means, unless there is a very particular reason you do not want to be employed, you will be employed. So it's so that somebody will decide. That's and then the salary depends on your institution. Here we've only put the median because there is increase as you go through your study. So as you hit 50% of your requirements, you get an increase. And then if you hit 80% of the requirements, there is another increase. So you start with something like 28,000, I think, per month, and then you go up. So Physicum doesn't have departmental or university scholarships. I see Fava, is this, I think this is still current. There used to be some kind of shared funding in the past, but my understanding is it's probably not clear if it's ever going to be back. So essentially the positions would be, the PhD positions would be opened via individual group funding. So people will apply for grants and then they will open PhD positions. And now when it comes to action points, so this means if you are interested in PhD opportunities here at Stockholm, essentially you have to look for job ads that pop up either on Physicum website. They are usually published on the major typical lists for open academic positions. So that's how you may learn. Well, this also means that you may anyway inquire at supervisors groups that you are interested in joining for PhD, because there might be things coming up on the horizon, or people might not be sure if they want to really get someone, or maybe not, if they will get someone reasonable or interested in the same topic as they are. So that can really lead to a position being opened once it's clear that there is a suitable candidate. So that's something you can one can explore. Yeah.
There are departmental positions, but they are awarded through groups.
Well, I was talking with, I think it was Jan actually, and he said that at the moment there is no funding for this.
Earlier, there were open positions, 2 open positions where students join and then they can decide which group they want to work with. But then there are non-open positions, which is like various groups get 1 or 2 positions depending on how many students they have graduated, etc. For that, there is money.
Okay. So what would be the order of magnitude per group member per decade? I don't know.
Depends on the size of the group.
Okay.
Exactly, yes. And
but so there will be some very low.
It's
okay.
a low number, yes. But it could be of the order of 1 position per year or something like that.
But for a whole division?
For a whole
okay,
division.
so that would be some 10 groups.
Yeah, so
okay,
they have to decide how they want to...
Who gets?
Who gets it, exactly.
Yeah, I see. So if things are cycled, then yeah, once per number of years that equals to the number of groups in your division, you might get a slot. Okay, maybe that's why you answered essentially. Practically, there is no funding. I'm saying Jan, by which I mean our head of department, just to make it clear. So NORDITA doesn't have a PhD kind of independent positions as such. But there is a very interesting program of visiting PhD scholarships that I think it's really worth mentioning. So if you are already on a PhD and would like to spend some time working with anyone from NORDITA, twice per year there is a call. There is quite minimal application where you need to first contact your prospective collaborator, the local supervisor, to see if they're interested, if they can be here where you want to come, if they want to work with you. Then you write a little proposal and get some motivation letter, both from your contact person at NORDITA and from your normal PhD supervisor. So typically these calls are, these stays are expected, or the funding is expected to cover a few months, but if you have some additional funding, of course, there is no reason to extend, so there is quite some flexibility. Moving on to postdoctoral opportunities. Again, things are quite fixed, so currently at Physicum, the postdoctoral positions are essentially 2-year duration, could be extended by 1 year. I guess depending on the circumstances of the dynamics. So that's not something decided by the university, but between a postdoc and the supervisor. Well, of course, for these opportunities, obviously, people that have funding, they open these positions. So again, one needs to monitor the calls. Now, it's important to check for the cutoff times past PhD, because these positions are typically for relatively junior people joining. So yeah, that's just something to have a close look before before one prepares everything. I think that's probably everything that really we need here at the moment. Now, NORDITA typically has 2 types of postdoc opportunities. NORDITA fellows. So NORDITA typically has their own funding for employing postdocs, and then people in NORDITA, if they get grants, of course, can employ postdocs on these particular grants. At the moment, there are no open positions, but what the information that was public on the website was saying is that this may resume for the 2026. So sometimes in 2025 makes sense to check and see if these schemes have resumed. There are other funding opportunities. Werner Grant Foundation, so we have Robert here that have funding from them. So in case there are success stories, so people manage to get this funding, and yeah, in case perhaps we can ask you for your experience, how that works. So there are three types of funding that I would like to highlight from them. Now, for navigating the website of the Werner Grant Foundation, don't be fooled that it has a little British flag. There is very minimal information in English, so Google Translate will be your best friend. Swedish has very regular grammar, so I think it's translated usually really, really well. At least I thought I could understand everything through that means. So, yeah. So first, outgoing fellowship. So if you get interested and come here for a PhD, then you will be eligible for this outgoing fellowship. So if essentially if you did PhD in Sweden, and this is for junior postdoc, so 3 years from PhD, you can apply for a fellowship to go for 3 years somewhere abroad. And then you have an exclusive kind of opportunity to apply for additional 2 years, so-called return phase at some Swedish institution. So the foundation covers salary. The amount depends on the country you're in. I mean, just how much funding you need. Maybe they adjust it to somehow typical local salaries. And the website mentions a startup grant. This is, I believe, total for the whole duration of this fellowship. This is 400,000 krona. And the deadlines are typically each year, 31st of January. Then the incoming fellowship. So this is for people that are currently not in Sweden or have not. Okay, I'll explain this requirement in a moment. So this is the moment I have to take the bull by the horn. So you cannot be longer than 9 months in Sweden at the deadline of the call you're applying to. And the easy thing is deadlines again on each year, the 1st of October. So if you've only recently come to Sweden and you're looking to extend your position, or you're maybe, or if you are outside of Sweden, obviously that doesn't bother you. But that's, So the point, the goal for this is to bring people from outside, so the duration of this funding is between 3 and 24 months, so up to 2 years. And this is not a salary; it's a fellowship, but it's tax-free. So this is a fixed amount you get. And the website mentions maybe that's where maybe there is some particular Swedish expression, but the way I interpreted it is that it doesn't have a fixed travel budget, but there is if you have an actual travel related with your research, you can get that reimbursed. Now, the important thing that applications are actually submitted by the host in Sweden. So it's not the person coming that is applying. Of course, person coming probably will be the one looking closely at this call and looking for some local contact and making sure they are interested and that they will participate in preparing the application. And in the end, it's the local host that actually has to do all the clicking and filling of all the boxes. But that can be easily arranged, so people can prepare everything that's needed. The proposal is again quite minimal, a couple of pages, and then there are some CV, publication list, and so on. So that's essentially something that really has to be done in some prior contact. So that's something one essentially cannot arrange at the last minute just before the deadline, typically, because somebody will need to submit it for you if you are interested in coming here. And then visiting researchers. That's, I guess it might be seen as a scheme for people here in Sweden to invite collaborators from abroad. But also if you would like to come and you have a good colleague that is willing to put some application like this with you, that could be an opportunity to come for 1 to 12 months. And again, it's not a salary, it's not a position, but it's essentially if you have some longer term position elsewhere but are interested in coming and work for some time in Stockholm, that this could be a good option. Again, this is this particular, this last scheme is for more senior people, so 5 years, you have to be at least 5 years post a PhD. And yeah, the money is supposed to cover the additional expenses because you are not at your home institution. And the deadline is twice per year, so 10th of March, 1st of October. Yeah, perhaps could be an interesting opportunity. And then there is, of course, a Swedish Research Council. I think every country that probably has PhD studies in physics would have a research council, and the same, of course, is in Sweden. And they also have a number of different funding, but I think only 2 are really directly relevant to the goal of this talk. That is more oriented at people at PhD or maybe just finishing PhD studies. So there are international postdoc positions. So that's for people that I would make decision to come to do PhD in Sweden, and then we'll be looking what are their options after that, if Sweden can support their further career even outside. And the answer is yes. So there are these international postdoc grants. So they are again for junior people, quite junior actually. So 2 years from PhD, you can apply. You can apply within 2 years. The duration is 18 to 36 months. I have here the grant amount per year. So this is based on the last call. Perhaps they will be adjusted. The deadline is typically January, February. I think it's already the deadlines are actually given already this year. I think it's something around 20 February where it's a closing date. And so even though this is an international postdoc, the information stated is that you need to submit it with a Swedish administering organization. Perhaps there is someone here that could say a few words about like what's the logic. My understanding is there's no return phase, so essentially you want to do a postdoc abroad, and you need to find a Swedish administering organization, and that just doesn't seem very clear. Maybe there's someone that can complement, give some. Do you know anything about this?
Not much.
Okay, yeah. Well, I guess in case one has to go. Well, VR is it usually the abbreviation for this is because it's Vetenskapsrådet, VR. Yeah, perhaps there is some more detailed information on this contact where you can shoot an email to understand what the role of this organization should be in this whole endeavor. And then there are starting grants. So if you know about the European, the ERC Council starting grants, that's a little similar. So this is for researchers between 2 and 7 years past PhD. They are 4 years in duration. There is ample research budget per year, and deadlines are typically March, April. Again, so here you apply with the Swedish administering organization, but in this case, this research is supposed to take place at the Swedish organization, so that's of course clear. You need to find a host university, so that's again something one needs to arrange very early in advance, so that it's clear that the university you would like to go to can support your application. And often also universities offer some additional benefits if you get such grant. These are quite attractive for universities. I believe some universities may offer even tenure for VR starting grants. Not anymore?
Not for VR.
Not for VR, okay. For the ERC ones. For Valen, okay. Yeah.
For ERC, maybe if you negotiate beforehand or afterwards.
Oh, so all the more contact beforehand and get some course on negotiations. I think that's everything I collected. In case slides will be available, I've included a link to the RQI circuit page where you can find all the links and summary information and perhaps any complement information that we'll gather. I guess I'll just close wishing everyone success in any applications I'll be preparing. Of course, if you are interested in any of these local opportunities, I'll be happy to be a point of contact and help you find other people you might want to connect to. So yeah, I guess it would be easy to find my contact details. I wanted to put something a bit festive because it's the end of this wonderful workshop. So again, I think really many thanks are in order to the organizers, Evan, Rick, Vasilios, and Jermaine. They did all the work, and of course it was really quite a bit to get it running, and they are all really quite fresh here as well. So I think yeah, really we all really appreciate your effort. And so for this festive atmosphere, I thought to ask what the AI would imagine as composite quantum snowflakes over Stockholm, and that's what it is. So yeah, I think we are through.